yes, any pronouns, and welcome once again, my Spectres of the Damned, to another Treat or Terror. Today we are comparing the 1913 and 1926 versions of The Student of Prague, where a poor student sells his reflection to the devil. That's right, we're finally covering a Sell Your Soul to the Devil movie. Certainly not the first in cinematic history by 1913, but important to the cinematic zeitgeist of German horror. The Student of Prague is a Faustian tale that also takes some inspiration from Edgar Allan Poe's William Williamson, short story about a man and his double that was his reflection, and the Alfred de Musset poem La Nuit de Décembre, which appears in the 1913 film. It's considered by many as the earliest German art film, and I've seen it declared to be the first true auteur film, retroactively since the coining of that term, of course. In some of the sets, we can clearly see a style that would evolve into the German Expressionism movement as we know it now. Some do consider it the first example of German Expressionism. It is 1820s Prague. We open on merriment from a crowd of students. One toast to Baldwin, our protagonist, and Prague's finest swordsman and wildest student. Also, the poorest. He's equally in poor spirits, lamenting his empty pockets. He can't even be cheered up by the flower-selling Ladushka. An older gentleman sits beside him, Scapinelli. He's full of smiles and a listening ear, convincing Baldwin to walk with him. On this little jaunt, they intersect with a hunting party, which includes the Countess Margit and her betrothed, who she rebuffs, reminding that she is only marrying him because her father wants it. Margit loses control of her horse, riding wildly past Baldwin, who follows, jumping into the water to pull her back to the safety of land. It's a gesture that earns him her locket. Yet he knows that though he has these budding feelings for the Countess, he is still a poor student. While in his room as he mopes, Scapinelli is back, sneaking in and offering a deal. A large sum of money, and all he has to give up is any item in his room that Scapinelli chooses. Baldwin agrees. After all, what does he have of value? What Scapinelli takes is his reflection, which walks out of the mirror and out the door with him. Baldwin is frazzled for a moment, but hey, he's got money now. Who needs a reflection when you're rich? He attends a ball at the governor's, managing to get Margit alone. They share a romantic moment, and she even slips him her handkerchief. They aren't alone, however, Ladushka entering Yandere territory as she sneaks over to watch them. She full-on climbs the building. Someone who doesn't hide is Baldwin's double. He appears just for a moment to give him a fright, darkening the elation he was previously feeling. Margit and Baldwin meet in secret in an old Jewish graveyard. She's stalked by Ladushka before Scapinelli shows up to sort of creep gleefully. But none of that dampens the pair's tryst, until the reflection returns. He says and does nothing, but still Margit flees, unsettled. Ladushka, having snuck into Margit's room to steal the letter telling her to meet up with Baldwin, goes to her betrothed to let him know what's going on. He handles it well. And by well, I mean he challenges Baldwin to a duel. The governor knows he stands no chance, so begs Baldwin to not kill him. He's the guy's only heir. The daughter doesn't count. Baldwin agrees, but he's beaten to the event by his reflection, who made no such promises. The governor will not see him after that, and naturally won't let him see Margit, so Baldwin goes on a bender. And there's a very interesting card scene where Baldwin beats his opponents who all leave, only to be replaced by the reflection. This rallies him to go back to the Countess, sneaking onto the property and into her room. Gotta say, guy needs a ladder. Ladushka did it barehanded. Margit is wary at first, but then gives in, unable to deny her feelings for Baldwin. Besides, she never really liked her cousin anyway. She comforts him as he breaks down, kissing and holding him. And then she notices he has no reflection, until that reflection walks through the open window. I really enjoyed this scene of Baldwin scaling the gate while the reflection calmly walks through the unlocked gate door. There's a chase through town. Baldwin hails a carriage, only to see the driver is himself. As he races inside, the double appears again from the other side. Not even his own quarters are safe as the reflection saunters in. Baldwin, done, shoots him, only for the reflection to disappear. For a moment, he tastes victory. and then the gunshot wound spreads across his own abdomen. Scapinelli Johnson, laughing and throwing the torn-up contract around like confetti. We end with the reflection upon Baldwin's grave, gazing directly at the audience. The essence of the 1926 film is much the same. It does actually show us how good of a fencer Baldwin is, however, instead of just telling us. We see him fighting, we see him gallivanting around, we see him defending Ladushka, even interacting with her more than he ever did in the original. Here, they do seem to be friends. He's not so amiable to Scapinelli at first either, assuming he's a loan shark. Eventually, though, he follows Scapinelli, where he eventually sees Margit, losing control of her horse and rescues her. As in the original, he knows he cannot be with Margit, considering how poor he is. He makes the deal with Scapinelli. His reflection steps out. Interestingly, in this version, Baldwin is shown using his gold for good as well as charity, by donating permanent support for 100 students. I do like this detail. I think it really adds to his character. He can be a rowdy guy, but he's also got a soft heart, and knows how hard it is to be a poor student with empty pockets. He does also use his newfound wealth for seduction, sending a giant bouquet that spells out his goddamn name. I gotta say, I respect that. At the ball, instead of immediately sneaking off together, they get a moment to dance, where he slips a letter in her hand, telling her to meet him later. Ladushka intrudes once more, spying on the tryst, and she isn't alone. A devious shadow causes the letter to fall right into her grasp. Then, of course, the reflection pops up, because what else does he have going on? He interrupts their graveyard gallivanting as well. Ladushka still tattles to the Baron, who of course challenges Baldwin. This time, we see his carriage stuck, so he has to make his way on foot, giving the double enough time to take his place. And this time we actually get to see school-based repercussions for this, the school holding council while students gossip about it. Then, after an agonizingly long scene that adds absolutely nothing to the story, and I'm pretty sure was filmed only to pad the runtime, Baldwin is kicked out of school. Ladushka sneaks in to comfort him, though ultimately her advances are rebuked once she asks for the red necklace Margit gave him. He leaves Ladushka to go to her, trying to explain that he did not do it. She gives in, comforting him, following him as he reveals that he has no reflection. Horrified, she faints. The double appears, ringing the bell to alert the help, so Baldwin runs off, stalked by his reflection. He makes his way back home, the reflection hot on his heels at every step. Baldwin takes a gun and shoots. The double disappears. The mirror cracks. His reflection is back where it should be. And then Baldwin's wound takes over. Like I said, pretty similar to the original, with its own flair. I do appreciate seeing more of Baldwin's character before the deal is made, and donating money for other students. The whole school stuff drags, though, and the first 20 minutes are pretty slow. It could have been easily condensed. There are interesting changes with the characters. Before, Scapinelli was evil, yes, but he was just around, initially tricking Baldwin, but not interfering otherwise. In the remake, it's very clear when Scapinelli steps in to manipulate things to his liking. Actually, maybe the original wasn't necessarily evil, but certainly mischievous, devious. Devilish, one might say. He did his thing and just popped in. Ladushka, while still scaling much shorter walls to stalk Baldwin, she also just breaks into his room and tidies up. She doesn't feel as unhinged, though. She feels more like a woman jilted, even though her and Baldwin were never anything official. Though clearly they have more time together here than in the original. Her parting around is also severely toned down. She becomes more demure. Margit's change, I think, is the most striking. In the 1913 version, she's very strong-willed. She is betrothed, and she lets him know it's only because her father wants it that the marriage is happening. She's sly. She has no qualms about the affair with Baldwin. Ultimately, she's even forgiving when she thinks he's murdered her betrothed. In the remake, however, she feels more... I'm not sure how to describe it. Generic girl, maybe. She's less of a real person and more of a stereotype. An ideal. There's less bite to her. Save for like a single moment with her cousin that's never really replicated. It doesn't even feel like she's putting on a show when he's around, like it does in the original, where you can easily tell she's barely tolerating him. Here, she seems much more okay with the betrothal. In fact, when she learns of the duel, she wants to race over to Baldwin to stop it herself. The 1926 film is also much more outright religious. Yes, the original was technically about a deal with the devil, but the imagery didn't go beyond that. Here, the necklace Margit gifts Baldwin is a cross. We later see her praying to a large crucifix after the duel. I suppose it makes sense for a movie about a deal with the devil, but it's still striking. I have to admit that I've never been a big fan of the selling your soul to the devil genre. Not just because of my atheism, but it always tends to be such a starkly black and white morality tale. I can't say I loved either film, but I did vastly prefer the original. I realize how silly it is to go, ugh, the original was better, why do we need remakes? For a movie from over 100 years ago, but here I am. The remake dragged, sorry. I appreciated some things it did, but ultimately, I did not like the big character changes. I also think Scapinelli was better in 1913. I enjoyed him just being a guy gleefully watching the chaos instead of orchestrating it flat out. But also, the actor was such a delight. No shade to the 1926 guy, he did a fine job for what this movie was going for, but I prefer the original. At the end of the day, both movies are important to cinematic history. Horror history, German expressionism. There's some truly beautiful shots and imagery in both. And props for the special effects when Baldwin and his reflection are both on screen. They made it work. I don't know if I would necessarily recommend either of these unless you were interested in German expressionism or Deal with the Devil movies in particular. Both are over an hour, originally by 16 minutes, remake by 31. So it's not a quick historic novelty. But hey, if you're at all interested, don't let me deter you. Again, they have some great shots. And that's all I've got today. I'll see you all tomorrow for a partially lost Russian film. Thanks for joining my lucid screaming.